My friend sent me the usual message of, come on friend, I have a property to show you. So off we've come on a beautiful sunny kind of wintry morning and checking out this place just on the outskirts of Caacupé. I'm not exactly sure if it's in the town precinct or not, but we're so close. It's only a couple of 100 meters to the main road. And it's in a part of the precinct that I've kind of been around, but I've never been this deep into it because we've come up a one-way road and found this amazing sort of very secluded property. So I've just literally arrived, been given a quick rundown of what this constitutes. So you're going to see it for the first time just like me, but it's essentially 10 hectares, I've been told, of land, which is 118 meters across and 873 meters long, goes all the way up. The first thing I'd say is it's absolutely beautiful up here. It's on a clearly elevated bit of land overlooking the township. If you could see through those trees, I imagine I can see the odd building through there, but it sort of comes up and the property just seems to keep going and going. So we'll go for a little bit of a walk and see what we can find. But it's so beautiful up here today, so fresh. This weather is just stunning. You don't know whether to put on a sun cap or a beanie or both on mornings like this, but it's really special. We're just waiting to go into a bit warmer period in the next short while, so really enjoying this cooler patch. But the first thing that catches me is these beautiful mango trees. I've been told that they're the original mango trees, not the mango roses, unfortunately, but they're still beautiful. But I just love them to look at. I think the mango trees are really special, really different sort of look to them. And every Paraguayan property's got to have a mango tree, in my view. A lot do around here. I'd love to know the backstory to this place. It sort of feels a bit ancient. And it's up a one-way road. You sort of come through a bit of a development to get to it. But the way it's nestled into this kind of hill, I think the good thing is this is as far as it goes. So if you're up here, I don't think you'd be getting built out anytime soon. But it's very elevated, which is nice. You're not going to have any problems with water pooling or anything like that. Comes up to this very rustico style house, Paraguayan built and designed, made out of this brick that's very common to this part of the world, which is this hollow brick. I've never seen it anywhere else. I don't know if it exists anywhere else. I guess different forms of it do, but it's very common here. And I think it's the cheaper form of brick. I've got a guard dog greeting me here. I'll just introduce myself to him. He looks pretty friendly. So he wants to know what's going on. He probably doesn't see many people up this way. For me, the one thing I do like is some sort of structure on any property that I look at, because it gives a footprint. And I've talked about this in previous videos. It's not essential, but it is good to have something going on a piece of land. Take this property, for example. It's got water connected and power. I understand it's only single phase, but those sort of things, if they're established, well, they're just two things that you don't have to be bothered with. And for me, that's cool. Also gives a presence on the land, so that if you move here to this property or any other, it just tells people that, well, there's just new people moving to that land. There's been people living there for how many years. Otherwise, if you're moving on to land that's never been lived on, well, you're sort of creating a new pattern in that area. And I think sometimes, you know, that can bring things with it. It's kind of nicer just to move on to a property that's had something going. That's my feeling, but either way, it is what it is. I won't pry too much, but the old house is pretty basic. Be good for maybe a lock up, or whenever you're moving on to a property, it's good to have something just to be able to start with, whether it's just for your tools or staying overnight while you're building something else, I don't know. Or if you're feeling intrepid, you might even have a crack at sort of doing something with it, which, I don't know, it looks like it's built on some pretty serious foundations. It's kind of interesting to see how they have traditionally built. Who knows when that was put down? And it's probably down on a house that may have been there before this house. Who knows? So, got a bit of history to it, I imagine. And just looking at the inside, it's obviously being lived in, so that tells me at least it's approximately watertight. I assume it's got a toilet and all that sort of carry on in it. It's got a water tank there, so I assume they use that as a header tank, fill it up and do what they do. Got some outbuildings here. Don't know what's been going on there. It's got a hammock, and maybe they've had some chickens and hanging out with the chooks, as you do. So, a few bits and bobs in there. I don't know what they've been doing. It looks like a bit of cattle. Sort of, oh yeah, I can hear a chook in there. How are you, buddy? Oh, nice. Nice big chooks in there. Cool. You get chooks of all sizes in Paraguay, big ones and little ones and different varieties that you probably haven't seen in most other places, but you know, it is what it is. But I think a place like this, depending on what you're looking for, at 118 metres, I guess that's big enough to accommodate some things. Sometimes they're so narrow that it's just too difficult to even do anything with. Very quickly, just a little bit over 100 metres from the house, just heading into pretty much jungle type forest, which is part of the property, and it would be really beautiful to get up in there and see what's going on. Lucky we can do it here. If I was in Nova Scotia, I imagine, from what I read, I might be in risk of getting the men with clipboards after me. I don't know if that's just fake news, but apparently in some parts of the world it's now an issue for you to walk through the bush, all in the name of environment, of course, but you know, it's amazing what they can tell you to do these days, I suppose. But no such problem here. We can kind of walk through and access our property. Hang on a minute. I found a road. Where was I going? So this property has got like this secret road up here. That's cool. Beats trying to be some sort of lunatic trying to chop through the bush like I was just then. Road spears off this way and up here. See what's going on up here. So it's nice to get out and about, and just over there is what's called Sero Rial, which is quite popular with hikers. I've been up there before in a previous video. I was up on top of that, and it's not really that high, but it's a little bit of a hike, and it's quite popular, celebrated part of town. But what's really nice about this property is up here is pretty much the way a lot of Paraguay would have been at one stage before it all got chopped down. There's some beautiful rock formations and all that sort of stuff in there. It's great to be out and about. We have had a few interesting weeks. Life isn't meant to be easy, but I think that sometimes someone somewhere, possibly in the lower bowels of hell, decide to send a circumstance or a few situations your way just to remind you of the fact that life isn't meant to be easy. And so it's been with us. A few weeks ago, my car kind of developed some serious issues. Poor old Hansel the surf. So he's in at the mechanic at the moment. He's going to survive, but I won't tell you the full extent of the issues because I'd probably start crying, and being a blubbering mess on YouTube would be, in the words of Prince Andrew when he described his friend with the island, unbecoming of a gentleman. But you know, it has been quite a difficult thing to see my beautiful truck having some serious issues, but he'll survive. But shortly after that, walked out the front one morning to find our cat Percy curled up on the front porch, and he had been hit by a car or a motorbike maybe, and was having some real issues. So we rushed him to the vet and found out that he needed to go to Asuncion, where we learnt that he had extensive breaks and other injuries. And unbeknownst to me, we happened to go to a vet in Asuncion who I think is probably the vet for the rich and famous, because that's the way they charged. But it turned out that it was touch and go. We had to have a family vote whether we'd actually pursue trying to fix him up or whether we'd just put him out of his misery, because he was definitely in it. I won't tell you which way I voted, but the bottom line was, the vote was that we save Percy at all costs. So that's what we did. We had him operated on, and the operation went fairly well. But a day or so after he was operated on, we got the call to say, oh, we found a lump, which turns out to be a hernia, and that needs another operation. Right, at this stage, I was reaching for the whiskey and a few other things, because these vets, some of them, my goodness, it's eye-watering what they charge. So thankfully, we got a recommendation to another vet in Asuncion, reached out to them, and we were delighted to find out that they could operate on Percy at like a quarter of the cost of what it would have cost us if we had have gone with the first vet. So we went down to Asuncion, took Percy to that second vet, and while I was down there, I went to one of my favourite eating places, and let's just say I think they put something in my empanadas or whatever I ate that didn't agree with me, so I got violently food sick. So that was a bit of an adventure. But Percy had his second operation on his hernia, and he's recovering really well. So I think that all in all, it's going to end well. But if anyone is in Paraguay, particularly this part of the world, and they're looking for a decent vet that's got all of the bells and whistles, that doesn't charge crazy prices, well, I'll leave a link below, because I think we found that in this vet that we went to, the second vet. They did a really good job, as I say, at a quarter of the price of what the first vet did, so, or was wanting to. So, you know, that was a good find. And those sort of contacts are really worth taking note of. I guess the lesson for us was, when you think about having pets, we've got 2 cats and 2 dogs. If you're going to have animals here, it's probably worth having the key contacts sorted out. Like, we had a vet here in Caacupé, but the vets in Caacupé and a lot of other parts of Paraguay are really just first responder type vets. They can deal with the general day-to-day issues, but if you're going to have a cat run over or something serious, you're going to have to go to either Asuncion or a few other places that have got that level of care. So it really does pay to have that nailed down. So if you do have an animal, I would recommend that you just make those inquiries before something bad happens, and just suss out who are the vets that you can go to and get treatment without having to mortgage the farm or go and work on the dirty boulevard. Because this first vet that we went to, oh la la, they were red hot, man. But at the same time, the level of service was really spectacular. They did an amazing job and did tests that, you know, I've never seen done on an animal, all towards assessing what was going on with the little fella. And to that end, they did really well. So the bottom line is, when it comes to pet care in Paraguay, if you want the best, you can find it. You're going to pay for it, but I recommend just doing your homework in that regard, and it will pay dividends. But you know, we had that week and I was going, what on earth is going on? Who's got a doll that looks a lot like me and they're sticking pins into it? But then I happened to go and visit a friend who's in hospital and is in a really bad way, and it made me recalibrate my attitude and my perspective and realise that even though we've got some issues with my car and our cats had some challenges and I ate something that I shouldn't have, you know, in perspective, we've got it pretty good. And the fact is, that's what life is all about. The good and the bad. And you take it both, don't you? But we're through all that. And I think Percy will be harassing cockroaches in no time. I'll be back on the road doing my 30 kilometres an hour in my truck. And I've gotten over my food poisoning, so happy days. But while I've been rambling on, I've sort of walked up this beautiful track and I'm standing on this kind of rocky hill, and it's just beautiful up here. So it's definitely not the sort of property you'd be buying if you wanted to plant some monocrops or any such thing, but that's part of the reason why we love this part of the world, because it's exactly this sort of terrain that really dissuades the mass agriculture and everything that comes along with it. So I might make my way back to the house because, you know, I could end up in Uruguay if I keep wandering along, but gives you a general idea anyway. It's a property that has that kind of characteristic, which is close to Caacupé, beautiful natural bush, and room to do some things on. But you've always got to calculate with a property like this, there is a certain element of it where it's either just for your enjoyment, hiking, or you could build some things up in a place like this, but you're definitely not getting your car up here anytime soon. So you've got to calculate about the areas that you're able to actually do something with. But there are people who would just simply be really delighted to have what is a pristine kind of jungly forest at their disposal to be able to just walk and enjoy. And I get that too. It's something special. So I hope you enjoyed that, and until next time, take care. Ciao.
Todo iluminado por el sol, una ventana de ilusión, niños jugando y las flores brotando, y en ese instante parece todo volver al antes, todo iluminado por el sol. Una ventana de ilusión, miedo y llanto, una niña buscando entre gritos y espanto, una madre esperando. Iluminado por el sol, una ventana de ilusión. Tantos sobrevivientes, cuántas heridas llevan, todo lo que ni se debe ver lo vivieron. Todo iluminado por el sol, una ventana de ilusión. ¿Qué nos está pasando? Algo se está logrando.